Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Fuller. I am the SVP of Marketing for McBride Sisters Wine Company. McBride Sisters, just to give a little bit of background, is the largest Black-owned, women-owned winery in the U.S. We are headquartered in Oakland, California. The brand has been established for over 18 years, founded by Robin McBride and Andrea McBride-John. And as the SVP of Marketing, I do it all. I have a fantastic team of 14 individuals and lead the strategy and implementation across various functions.
What's up, everyone? I'm Josh Fajardo, Senior Director of Brand Marketing for Zelle at Early Warning. And Zelle is a peer-to-peer money transfer service found in in over 2,000 banks throughout the country. We've been around for about 6 years at this point and helping people move money directly from one bank account to another with friends and family.
Okay, so the goal here is to understand what did these brands and these leaders of the brands challenge. And what we're going to learn about this is there is no one particular way to be a challenger brand. They come from many different ways, many different routes, lots of approaches, and we're going to be doing compare and contrast by juxtaposing what Zelle and Josh did versus what Renee and the McBride sisters are doing. Okay, are you good so far? Okay, excellent. So let's start with you, Renee. So McBride Sisters Wine. What is this brand really known for? What is the perception out there? Just tell us in the way you understand it, in the way you try to communicate it.
Yes, so I would say that the ethos and mission of the brand at the forefront is to make wine accessible for all. We drive change, we're change agents, we are a very authentic, transparent brand, and we believe in cultivating community, one glass of wine at a time, via innovation, sustainability, all of those different entities.
What are you faced with? What's the challenge here? Like, who are you against in this particular case? There is establishment, so say something about it.
Yes, so given the category, just similar to any CPG brand, there are larger conglomerates that we play against, Constellation Wines, E.J. Gallo, dynamic forces. And what we've kind of looked into is, instead of going after the share in category in the form today, how do we kind of bring in a new majority? Those that have never experienced wine, never had an opportunity to look at wine as being less daunting and cumbersome, and really, again, bringing it around the identity of cultivating community.
So there are two big things I took away. By the way, I've spent enough time with them to understand their business ahead of time, so I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. One is the whole idea of access. So access to what? You're talking about the premium curated variety of wines, right?
Yes, so just to give an example, we have over 33 varietals and blends that exist within our portfolio. I would say about 80% of these wines are 90-plus scored ratings by Wine Spectator and wine enthusiasts. Normally, these wines would be established for, in the category, $40 and above. We're available at Target, Kroger, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, $16 to $19. Organically harvested. Again, giving that opportunity for people to lean in places and spaces that they would never be able to.
A word, thank you. A word we use so freely and frequently that it's almost become a cliche. Authentic. Renee, elaborate. What does authentic mean for you and for your brand?
I would say authenticity at the forefront is about being transparent with your consumers, really leaning in and forming this relationship. And via our different messaging drivers, one, having founders at the forefront. A lot of established brands today, when you get to the growth of the brand where we are now, you don't see the founders. Robin and Andrea are very immersed in the brand, the day-to-day aspects, whether it's through the packaging, whether it's through, we just went through our first harvest, and I was telling the guys that we were literally at 12 o'clock picking grapes, with our all-women female crew in the Caneros. You normally don't see that and have that touch point, and we offer that to our consumers. So again, via that lens, our consumers are able to see these two women, dynamic founders that have translated the community and brought in and been a dynamic force, and they feel touchable.
Okay, you see that? That's authentic. How close, how approachable this whole thing and the accessibility is a big deal here, which is fascinating. There's another thing that's happening that Renee just said, which is they're not trying to steal the consumer from other wines. This is about growing the pie. That's what they are doing. They're bringing new consumers into the market. So it's a whole different kind of challenge here we're talking about. Josh, let's go to you for a second. So, Zelle, how is this challenging the establishment? What is your scenario? Please elaborate.
Yeah, for us, it's quite complex because we're owned by 7 banks that are some of the biggest banks in the country. So you would think that there's already an establishment, which there is. One of the benefits for this brand was when it launched, we had access to 80 million consumers by being a part of their bank apps through those 7 banks.
Bring it a little closer.
Thanks, Seraj. So when I think about our way into the market, Zelle launched 6 years ago, and the category was already established. You had one brand that already pretty much was commoditized and has become a verb when it comes to sending money to and from, anyone you know. And then the other brand is so aspirationally, like culturally driven that they have a clothing line. So for us, when we think about being relatable, when we think about what our space was going to be in the category, stepping in pretty much late to the party, we had to think about who are we trying to reach that's going to make the most sense and not go after Gen Z, because I think a lot of people, when they think about growth, they focus on that younger audience. It's like, okay, we'll catch them early on, they'll grow with us. But for us, it's like, hey, we're a challenger brand. We don't have that budget. We need to compete in a way that outsmart these folks. So one thing that was really important for us and stays very important to us is figuring out who that audience is that believes in the product that we are. So we found this, or through a whole bunch of audience segmentation analysis and research, we're able to carve out an audience of about 40 million people who really believe in their financial institution. So that gives us a leg up. When we talk about moving money directly to your bank account with Zelle, that hits the consideration driver that these folks care about. They care about getting their money and having access to it within minutes. They don't need to wait a few days. They're not interested in transferring it to cryptocurrency. They don't care if they're in a really cool hoodie. It's no, I want to be able to live my life and not worry that my money's out there floating in the ether or I'm waiting for a few days to get it. So for us, relatability, connecting with our audience, with a unique audience, was our way in as a challenger, not stepping into the space of, hey, here's what everyone's doing, and here's a cool, young, hip audience that is really attractive. It's no, what is gonna work for us, and how do we do it right?
So, lesson number 2. Being a challenger means you're going to have to sacrifice something. Just because you have access to 80 plus million people doesn't necessarily mean, okay, fine, let's just reach everybody. You can't. You don't have money. You don't have resources. You just don't have it. What the other big guys do, which is a ton of money, right? And so you need to figure out how to zone in. So that's another very interesting thing to take away, right? Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit now that you understand their business a little bit, right? And the challenge that they have. Let's go to you, Renee. Renee, in terms of your opportunity to reach new audiences, you don't have one. So elaborate further. Who are they and how are you approaching them?
So my go-to-market strategy is a little complex because under the McBride Sisters portfolio, we actually have 3 unique established brands: McBride Sisters Collection, Black Girl Magic Wines, and She Can Wines. Each one of these audiences are vastly different. So everything from targeting, messaging, comm strategy literally has to have its own identity and way and journey of leaning into the consumer. So go ahead.
Let's go and let's show it. I rarely show anything on the screen when I'm in presentation mode here, conversations. But this one I couldn't resist because she has very distinct segments, right? So we need to be able to show some of that.
Yes, so Black Girl Magic Wines. Black Girl Magic Wines has a very distinct demo. It pays homage to the identity and culture of a Black woman. Now, here's the beauty of it. You can be an ally and advocate. You don't have to be a Black woman to drink this wine. But the identity and the standard of what it means and represents for the culture is what we're trying to bring to the forefront. Now, compared to our next one, She Can, which plays very heavily into the Zillennial target. So think 250 milliliter, sleek, vibrant. Our tagline is break the rules, drink the wine. Disruptive, going against the status quo. What I really appreciate about this brand is that though it leans into the Zillennial target, we also have a do good, feel good feature behind it and leads into CSR, which is behind our She Can Fund. The She Can Fund was actually established to support women that are leaning into male-dominant industries. We've actually donated over $3 million since 2019 to support these women via scholarships and grants. This here is a totally different way to reach our audience demographic. And then I have one more precious brand. Uh-oh, it disappeared. Well, I can explain it. McBride Sisters Collection. So McBride Sisters Collection really leans into the founder story. These two sisters that never knew they existed on opposite ends of the hemisphere, New Zealand and the Central Coast in California. And it's at the center of this Epicurean lifestyle, foodie enthusiast moment and expectation. So a lot of the wines, when you're drinking them, you think about food and recipe pairings or the identification of hospitality and leisure. So again, another form and journey of how we have to meet this consumer. Different message, different identifications.
That's good. That's very good. Thank you. Let's go to you, Josh.
Sure.
We're gonna come back again, Renee. We're gonna come back again. When you have such amazing presence as you do, I have access to my Bank of America app in here. I go in there, I put my footprint, fingerprint here and everything. The first thing of the 4 things I can do that comes up in there is Zelle. Give the gift of something, something. There's some message there, right? Why do you need marketing?
Seraj, it's like you work at one of our owner banks. They're like, why do you need budget? We'll do it for you. You don't have to do that. I'm like, well, no, I like my job. Please keep giving us budget. It's so funny that you mentioned that because what seemingly is a very big advantage for us, which is that footprint, it also inherently creates a unique challenge for us. When Seraj sees it in his mobile banking app, what we're finding a lot with consumers is that like, oh, it's a Bank of America product. I can probably only use it with folks at Bank of America. Common misconception. So our brand campaign really needs to do a very big heavy lift to help people understand, hey, we're available in 2,000 different banks. Like you can send money to pretty much anyone, anywhere at this point within the US with Zelle. So our marketing dollars really go against breaking through this perception, this non-perception of ubiquity, which is a challenge that comes up because of the very nature of the product. But then we actually have to go one step further because a lot of times you can end up with a positive relationship with the brand because it might save you in a pickle. Like, oh crap, I don't have money to pay the sitter, or I don't have cash. So great, I can do it for Zelle, and it saves my life in that one instance. But what we're also finding is that in a category that's pretty mature, people already have established relationships. So if me and Renee have been friends for 6 years and we have this mode of operating when it comes to sending each other money, we're probably not gonna have a conversation that breaks that mold. We're just gonna use whatever service we've always been using. So my responsibility and how I answer this question, Seraj, is like, we need to change the conversation as a challenger still. Because we have that call out in a bank app, in an email, at an ATM screen, it's not driving relationships to change. And that's what our brand marketing needs to do.
Yeah, so another very interesting thing to take away from this, right? So the 11 years that I spent working with the American Express brand, the single biggest challenge for American Express was, in a wallet loaded with cards, how can American Express be the top card? Hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on just making sure that it was the top choice. That is fundamentally your challenge. Hopefully the field isn't that crowded. I mean, the credit card is like every which way you turn, you find a card. In your case, hopefully not, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of big brands that are competitors, but aspirationally, for us, it's also cash and checks.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the most ubiquitous way that people have given each other and sent each other money for ever since the existence of currency, besides barter. So yeah, when we're talking about what the challenge for the brand is, it is becoming that preferred method that people use when it comes to paying each other back or sending money as a gift sort of thing. And that those are the inroads we need to make by changing the conversation that people are having, or I guess how we address that challenge is, how do we get people to spend time with us? Like, what is the motivator to drive that conversation? And we're finding success as a brand in showing up in people's lives in meaningful ways. If Renee and I are gonna go to a music festival, like, can Zelle be there and say, like, hey, if you use Zelle 8 times ahead of that music festival, you unlock access to the secret party where Questlove is DJing. So now Renee has a reason to talk to me about, hey, let's pay each other back with Zelle. And that to us has been some of the major inroads that we're making, because we're making emotional connections by being at a thing we both care about, and we're actually sparking that conversational change.
Okay, I got it. You do need a budget.
I do, thank you.
So, and let me give you more evidence of that. I have 2 questions for you. Question number 1, how many of you had actually heard of Zelle before today?
Look at all that.
That's everybody. So that's the good news. That's the good news. How many of you have actually used Zelle to send money?
That's more than...
That's pretty good. That's excellent. So now let me tell you how old I am.
And thank you.
So just a few months ago, I wanted to send the gift of cash, old uncle sending gift cash, right? To one of my nieces. And so I'm on the phone with her and I said, I actually want to send you something, okay? I don't know how to send it to you. She said, just use Zelle. And I'm saying, I have seen this somewhere. I was embarrassed to actually admit to her that I don't know what Zelle is. So I said, let's rest it right there. I'll figure it out. So I said, yeah, sure. And I hang up, right? Move on. I go and I look and this thing shows up on my Bank of America app. So the Zelle is there, but I am clueless. I don't know what the hell this thing is for. And so finally I have a reason to use it, right? So there is an education element to this whole thing. Just because it's there doesn't necessarily mean people like me actually have a reason to know that that's what this is for and therefore use it, right? And so I think those are all the things. You got a job to do.
I do.
In terms of how to figure that out, right? And maybe I'm not the target. Who the hell knows, right? Maybe your target is somebody else. Now, one of the things you did say, that your target is essentially, there was an age bracket you had.
Yes, it's 35 to 54, which runs counterintuitive when you see what the competitive brands are putting out there. For us, that age group is so important because A, they have discretionary income that they love doing stuff, they love going out, spending time with friends and family, and they're influential both up and down. So I don't need to go at Gen Z with $80 million. For me, the dream is kind of this scenario with Seraj, where like there's someone in our sweet spot who's gonna train someone up or educate someone up and educate someone down to pull them in with us for us.
I have said this previously before. In all of my experiences managing challenger brands, no amount of advertising budget is going to solve your problem better than actually having an audience that's connected and has a reason to want to tell the world what to do. That's the absolute best marketing you'll ever get, right? And so let's come to you, Renee. You said you have three very distinct segments, which very different attitudes, lifestyle choices, things like that. In our previous conversation, you also mentioned something about the journeys for them are distinct. I assume you meant the way we think in marketing. There's a mental journey of being associated, learning about the brand, and so on and so forth. What did you have in mind? What were you thinking about? I didn't bother to ask you at that level of detail. What does a journey mean to you? Pick any segment you prefer of the three you have. What might that feel like? What could the messaging be like? Because there's a reason I'm asking you this question. One is I'm curious. Number two is we in this crowd and in the trade journals, marketing journals, we hear about journey marketing, we hear about customer journeys, this, that, and the other. But we never get down to the specifics of how. What does it really mean to do that?
I would say, as I think through the customer journey, as a challenger brand, I literally have to reach that consumer way before they get in the grocery store, because their purchase decision, I don't even want to play in the space of pricing, the 4 Ps of marketing. I don't want to go that route. I've always been taught to get on the list, get in the cart, get in the heart. So to get on the list, for example, with She Can, it's meeting in places and spaces where these consumers are actually taking in these types of product propositions, whether it's going to festivals and driving liquid to lips opportunities, or leveraging influencers that speak on behalf of the brand, those that are truly, again, authenticity, because now influencer relations, everyone's an influencer. How do you break that mold and create ambassadors? That's how we lean in that form. I agree with you in the aspect of paid media is not going to help our brand win in any form. We'll leverage it, but it's truly driving connectivity via these different avenues to make sure that we're sounding the consumer. So for one, I have to worry about aided awareness. That's one challenge in itself. Secondly, convincing the consumer, again, before they get to the grocery store, that our RTBs, our reasons to believe, are truly differentiated enough to even drive a purchase. And then once I get them, I have to ensure from a loyalty perspective that we're truly driving brand affinity. And that's where the transparency comes through in terms of our founders and what we stand for and the overall identification of the brand.
There you go. Tons of organic behavior reaching consumers long before they are at a point of sale where they have a reason to figure out, should I buy this? No. They're going to make up their mind long before then, before they walk in there. And I think that's really the behavior you're looking for. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop right here. Any questions?
So, Renee, how are you leveraging retail media? And since Seraj just kind of said there was no retail media, or that the focus wasn't retail media, but obviously you have to, reach consumers at the point of purchase.
Well, given there's actually some complexities within the industry of even leveraging retail media. So for example, my go-to playbook was for Target.com, where bottom of funnel, the digital stratosphere, that's where the consumer is shopping. I can't even run retail media because unfortunately wine and spirits brands are not allowed to target in that form. So therefore, again, I have to go around the wheel to drive that form. Now, areas where I am leaning into retail media, like Instacart, for example, very heavily, again, that journey, I need to make sure that I'm already targeting this consumer way before they even get to Instacart.com to ensure that not just that our products are resonating and showing up above the fold, but that when they see it, they go, I'm familiar with She Can. I'm familiar with McBride Sisters Collection. I'm familiar with Black Girl Wines. I can't, unfortunately, just leverage retail media alone.
So obviously everybody knows around here, the master of all retail media is essentially Amazon with 80% market share of the whole retail media, right? And we've done tons of campaigns on Amazon doing retail media. And I will tell you with evidence that the economics of organic search on Amazon will absolutely crush any form of retail media you will ever buy on Amazon consistently. So that's the magic of retail media. The goal is to go upstream in the journey, get their minds made up so they are looking for it, and that's the way you will really crack through the economics of a challenger brand. With that, I end it. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it. Thank
Hi.
you, Renee.
One more.
One
Sorry.
more. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. This is for Renee. So I wrote this down. Get on the list, get in the heart, get in the cart. I've never heard that before, and I love it.
Love it, yeah.
So someone asked a question about the retail portion of it. I'm going to go back up the funnel. And what are you actually leveraging, and what are you doing? What platform and strategies to get the awareness to get on the list? I'd love to hear that.
Yes, so we are leaning into paid media strategy via Instagram, Pinterest to kind of drive, again, creative. That's why I was showing the identity of the creative, because it's the storytelling that drives the excitement and awareness behind the brand, but literally liquid to lips. Really having these engaging moments with the consumer has been the most beneficial, resourceful tactic that I've ever seen. And again, it's because you're bringing this consumer into the fold. So I tried to make sure to create experiential, engaging activities, whether it's showing up at festivals, showing up at wine tastings, to ensure that the consumer is able to taste the product. And then when they hear the story, it goes, wow, not only is this brand flavorful, it creates this Epicurean experience, but it represents something. And you can't do that, unfortunately, just via an ad. You got to do a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a storytelling component to that. That's the idea.
How do you think about the post experience? Like once they've gone through and actually had that first transaction, that P2P sort of exchange, how do you get that to become habit or their default?
Yeah, that's been a big challenge for us. We're finding, and don't quote me on the statistic exactly, but it's like if we can get someone to use Zelle 3 times within the first 90 days, chances are you will stick around and become a more frequently active user. So we think about the full funnel experience from aided awareness all the way down to advocacy. And anytime where we have a campaign live, it does have all those elements. I would love our ad exposure frequency to be something like 12, 15, because if it sticks with you and we can do like some of the stuff that I mentioned, like Renee and I going to a music festival type of examples, we're catching you throughout and it's sticking with you after. So what's worked for us is creating that emotional connection through that shared experience with a family member, with a friend, then starts to shift that behavior. And we're not one and done by any means. Like every year we come back and we find nuanced ways to be in important places for our consumers. So I'll give you another quick example. Like beyond the music festival stuff that we do, we did a lot of work last year with WNBA athletes to go back to their hometowns, to talk about their high school coaches and to gift, say, $10K to their high school coaches in order for that team to get like new gear or go to a tournament in Puerto Rico. So beyond even just the shared experience that Renee and I can have at a festival, it's like, oh my God, whoa, that's cool. I love this WNBA team and they're in my community and they're doing something that's good. So when we can continue that frequency with emotional connection points, that we found success in people sticking around from that perspective. And we'll be at another music festival or at a food and wine festival sort of thing. So that's important to us. Like it's never, okay, cool, we accomplished a task, we're moving on to the next thing. It's got to be a continued relationship. Otherwise, yeah, we could just drift off and not be used again.
But that is the integral part of your business model, right? More volume essentially means really growth, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, like you said, becoming the preferred way that people send each other money is the dream.
Josh, there's the head of brand partnerships at Rock the Bells here. That's a music festival. Write the check. Write the check.
You need a wine sponsor, a finance sponsor.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Brand Innovators. Thank you, panel. Great job.